What do Alireza Firouzja and Hans Niemann have in common? They both play the English opening. Let's see how these two top juniors play this opening. First up, we have Alireza Firouzja against Shak Mamedyarov. The English starts off with pawn to c4. So many ways for black to respond. Just too many ways, really. e5 chosen, g3 and bishop g2. You are controlling the long diagonal. Shak wants to get the center all for himself. One critical way to handle this is to play knight f3. You challenge black's center first. Hit the knight, goes to the center, and now it looks like black gets the center. This looks like a pretty good line for black. That's why people play it. But how does Firouzja treat this kind of position? Take. And now, how to take back. Queen. You can take back with a pawn, but then maybe there's a way for white to continue, just trying to break up the center. This is just another way to play. Drop the knight back, hit the bishop, castle, knight c3. Maybe white has a decent position here. If black takes, and after take, there's just so much pressure on the center pawn. Maybe this is one reason why these players aren't going for this line. Shak takes with a queen, it hits the knight. You can drop the knight back. You can go e3, which we're going to see in the next game. But knight c2 played by Firouzja. Queen h5, good move. Bishop can come out to h3 if white castles. This is already very dangerous. Knight can come into g4. Queen h2 is already checkmate. So if you're not careful, something like this, bishop g2, it's game over. Mate already. So this position is quite dangerous for white if Firouzja castled. h3 to stop it. Queen back to g6. Knight c3, bishop c5. b4. Attack the bishop, it drops back, and now bishop b2. Firouzja has played a double fianchetto, where he put both bishops on g2 and b2. Knight e3. And now queen c2. It looks like the focus is around the central pawn. Knight d7. One other option was this, knight a6. You hit the pawn. You might be asking, so what? Now it comes round to d5. You might castle here, but then you come round to d5. Take, and then we can take. Take back with the knight looks good. Take, the game goes on. However, Shak went knight d7. Rook d1, maybe Firouzja wants to break open the center with d3. a5. Shak wants to get the rook in the game. Firouzja says no. Close off the file. This position looks pretty good for black. White can castle here, but Firouzja actually went rook back to b1, which looks like such a strange move. The idea is to defend this once this bishop has moved. So, Shak locks up the center with c5. h4. All of a sudden, Firouzja's playing h4. Why? To attack the queen. So if you play a nothing move, like h6, then h5 is already a problem. Hit the queen, capture, and now bishop takes the central pawn. If you go here, this is Firouzja's idea. Really cool idea in order to get the rook in the game. Red, yellow, green, blue arrows show 4 pieces attack that pawn. Really cool way to get a piece in the game. So if you take, I mean, this is already so strong for white. That's why after h4, h5 played. If black can get in b6 just to hold the a and the c pawns, it looks pretty good. Knight d5 played. That's why in this position, b6 is actually a really cool move. Then the knight goes to b5. Attack the bishop. A capture might happen, and then the game goes on. Queen attacks the pawn. Bishop is very strong. White is ready to castle. However, after h5, Firouzja went knight d5. Take. Brilliant tactic here. Pause the video now or let the 5-second timer run. Black to move. Bishop takes f2 check. Brilliant move by Shak. After take, queen f5 check, winning the knight. You might be thinking, well, hang on, why can't I block? Because queen wins the queen via a discovered check. What a tactic. What a tactic. So after this, king e1 and take. Is Firouzja in some trouble? Maybe. Rook f1. Knight f8. Not the best move by Shak. You might be wondering, well, after this, threatening mate, knight e6 looks like a pretty decent way to reroute. But now rook f4 is a brilliant move. You can't take the rook because we got mate on g7. If we go back a few moves, another option was to go b6, which is the move mentioned a minute ago. Defend your pawns. And if you go queen c3, now you block with the knight. It's a more active spot for the knight. Rook f1. Queen c3, and now rook f4. Brilliant move by Firouzja, coming back in the game. f5. Really asking for it. This diagonal is now always open for Alireza. d3, breaking open the diagonal. Knight d4, blunder by Shak. Another option was to take, get out of the way, hit the rook, and then come back to the center. And then take, the game goes on. But after d3, knight d4, this move looks alright because it blocks the diagonal, but Firouzja is now totally winning after e3. He must have forgotten. He must have forgotten after knight f3 check. Well, you just take it. And then you've still got mate on g7. Total blunder by Shak. So in this position, what else could he have done? Here, and then come back, something like this. And then a really cool move here actually, just trying to block the diagonal. Just to stop. Just to find a way to trade queens. But in the game after this e3, game over. Hit the rook, the queen drops back, and here, cool move. You don't even need to take the knight, you take the pawn. I think that's pretty cool. Because the truth is, this knight doesn't have a good square anyway. Can't take the pawn because it's mate. And after this move, yeah, after this capture, Shak resigned. Take, you are down a piece. Firouzja against Nepo. We have the English again. That's the whole point of this video. Coming up, we will see Hans Niemann in the final game. And this looks pretty familiar. There are a few options for black. Knight c6, bishop c5, g6. But we are sticking with this idea. A few top players are going for this. This greedy setup, you could say, where black wants the center all for themselves. Firouzja goes for the same thing. d5, and now we take a couple options with the knight. But there's a better option. You defend the knight with e3, which we did not see in the first game. d3 coming up to attack, to use the pin on the queen. So one option is to just move the queen out of the way. So if this, now we can take. But in this position, knight a6 was played. Alireza goes d3, and now throws in a check. Nepo checks, you block it, and take. Okay, now what? Well, this pin is still a problem. Knight c5, putting pressure in the center. c4, hit the queen. Another option was just to take. And after take, you just castle. Pretty cool option, actually. The position is about to open up. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter that you chuck a pawn, because it's typical compensation in the middle game, where you sack a pawn, but you've got two bishops. The lines just open up in your favor. This red arrow shows the bishop can come out to b2. No, bishop comes out to a3 instead, stopping black castling. Back to the game, c4 played, attack the queen. It goes to e5 now, but we take and castle. c5, does it win the rook in the corner? No. Knight drops back to b3 to defend it. Castle. Really, really nice position for white. Because white has the two bishops. It's going to open up. After f3, white also gets a huge center. It's a very, very easy position for black to play. Knight d6 and now e4. Firouzja doesn't even waste time defending the pawn. e4. If you defend, if you take it, I mean, f4. If you drop the queen back, queen c2. You can go e5, but queen c2 first, hit the knight. Every move is an attack, all for the cost of a pawn. Get the bishop out, go e5, lots of options. But in the game, after e4, Nepo blundered. Nepo deliberately retreated the queen back to e7 because he thought, well, bishop coming out to f4, queen e7. Pause the video now or let the 5-second timer run. Can you see a brilliant move by Firouzja? White to move and win. These two knights look really funny. e5, you can't take, because bishop f4 wins. So after e5, Nepo decided to get 2 pawns for the piece. Take on c4. Take, take, and now queen d5. It's game over. Take the pawn. f4. f5, hit the bishop. Queen c7. Hit the queen. You can take. There's actually this really cool option. Take. That bishop is trapped, by the way. It is trapped. So if you go here, you can play this. Just using the pin. There's no check. There is no check from the black queen to get out the way. Cool option. But Firouzja just plays a good move as well. Drop the queen back. You're a piece up anyway. Consolidate. Get the queens off. Don't give Nepo any chance. Bishop out. Knight back to f3. Get your pawns rolling. Knight in the center. Get a pair of rooks off. You're up a bishop. They come off. Put the knight right in the black position. And rook c7, game over. Just a piece down, really. Gonna come in, gonna take everything. Hans Niemann against Shak Mamedyarov. English, but not g3 and bishop g2, but knight c3 this time. The 4 knights, now e4. Gaining a bind already on the center. Couple of moves for black. You can go d6. You can go bishop b4. And then white tends to go d3. Defend your center. But the third option is bishop c5, played by Shak. Whenever you see this setup, look out for this tactic in your own games. Knight takes pawn, and after d4, you win the piece back. Don't fall for this trap. You might be thinking, okay, well, maybe I've thrown a check, and then take. This is awful, because after this, you've just got 3 amazing pawns in the center. The knight has to retreat, but if it goes check, you just go king g1. This knight is awful. You just kick it away, and white has 3 brilliant central pawns. After this move, tactic, take, d4, hit the knight, and now we have this situation, pin on the knight, queen f3 defends. White now gets doubled pawns. This looks very ugly, but this pawn is so far advanced. White is further ahead in development. 2 options. You can go back to e7, but a5 chosen, and now we have this situation. It just looks so weird, doesn't it? Why is white even castling this side when there's no b pawn? Queen e7, threatening a check. Hans plays king b2, rook b8, face the king. Now queen e3 attacks the pawn. Shak now plays b6. The amazing thing is b5's a move. Maybe the guy didn't play it because of queen a7, but there's an absolutely brilliant move to get out of this. I don't blame Shak for not going for this, because you have to see this brilliant move. Bishop a6, what does that do? It sacks a bishop, but the truth is the queen is misplaced. Queen c5, brilliant move. Also finding a way to trap the queen. So if you go here, you can throw in a check, and then you pick up the queen. After this, you might go f3, hit the queen, and now take. The attack has just begun. Rook check is just too dangerous. If the queen goes back, queen a3. Wow, what a brilliant move. Oh my gosh, didn't even see that. That's absolutely brilliant. Here, that's mate. Wow, what a finish. Wow, I just turned on the engine just to check that. That's absolutely brilliant. Back to the game. Queen e3, b6. Okay, bishop out. Swing the queen over. And now rooks to the center. Now Shak opens it up. But Hans closes it. c4. A takes b3. We get an attack, but so what? White has so many pawns in front of the king. Hans sacks a rook for a bishop, but has so much dark square control with that bishop. You've got a few pawns for it. a5. He wants to go for an attack. Bishop retreats. And if you keep going with your attack, b4. Check. King a2. This is called an umbrella pawn. where you just use your opponent's pawn as a shield. If we go back a few moves, after this, Shak played bishop a6, queen h4. Cool move, threatening mate. Hans centralizes the queen, defending everything. Rook b7, finding a way to double on the b file, but no. You take the pawn, and now b4, you lock it up. King c3 is coming next. b5. So Shak returns the rook for the bishop and a pawn. Check. Take, take. King c3. And now bishop e4. 6 pawns against 5. Bishop d5. Rook b1. But we're going to get a queen ending. We're going to get a queen ending. They're always tricky. Always chances for a perpetual check. The rooks come off. The bishops come off. And now the queen takes d7. Throwing a check. Take. And now Hans finishes it off. You take that pawn, throwing a check. I really like this sequence. Queen defends the f2 pawn and attacks, and that pawn is going to drop whenever the black queen leaves its defense. Check. 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 Centralize. Check. Check. Lots of checks in queen endings. Find a way to block. Move your passed pawn. There's always a way through. Check. And after this moment, he resigned. If we just keep playing on a little bit, black is finding a way to stop the promotion, but it's about time you get the other pawn up the board, and then there's going to be a way through. You can even take the pawn now, king here, get a queen, game over. I hope you saw how Alireza Firouzja and Hans Niemann play the English opening from the white side. In the top left, we have how to play the English opening. I look at many black responses. In the bottom right, we have YouTube's selection.